Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank everybody for being here, especially Mr. Frazier from the great town of Lakewood, and appreciate you being here from Ohio. So I want to ask a little bit just about how the recent banking crisis and some of the services that it issued affect Main Street banks, and in particular your bank, Mr. Frazier. So one of the things that I've continuously highlighted since the failure of SVB and a couple of these other institutions is the importance of the three-tiered banking system and the benefits that community and regional banks have on the economy. Now, of course, talking about banks like yours, but all across the state of Ohio and all across the country. Maybe just to sort of set the stage a little bit, Mr. Frazier, I want to ask, who do you compete with on deposits, right? If you're not getting these deposits, where are they going?
Yeah, so we've always competed in the community bank space and with regional banks in Ohio. And a little bit of the context of the state of Ohio is we have 175 charter banks, several regionals, and about 240 banks that operate in our state. So it's always been, it's kind of the crossroads of America when it comes to banking. Everyone's in Cleveland or Columbus and in our different 88 county seats. Sure. And so that three-tier system works well. Like we will hand customers up when they get too big for us to a responsible regional. In the same way, if a regional has a customer that needs maybe a little bit more intimate attention, we'll step in and do that. And the regionals, I'm sure, do that with others. So we have a healthy three-tiered system. And we're seeing increasing flight or competition right now for deposits with non-bank players coming in offering bank-like services. We're seeing some larger customers, I mentioned earlier, seek the safety and easy and high levels of returns right now with treasuries. And those dollars come out of the banking system when they leave a bank, and if they're parked overnight in a treasury or in a money market fund. Non-banks exist in that space, and those balances are big. I think there was about $1.7 trillion in reverse repos last night. All of those funds come out of the banking system and cannot be used to make a loan, and it drives up the marginal cost of deposits for individuals. The other part too is those money market funds don't pay the 8 basis point premium either, and right. I worry about what would happen if one of them had an issue, or one of them needed assistance, or if a payment processor did, as I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, Mr. Frazier, I mean, both with the money markets and some of the fintechs you're sort of referencing, but also, we've seen some flight to deposits, flight to safety from depositors to some of the bigger banks, right? Because the bigger banks contain this sort of implied promise of bailout. My fear here is that if you're a local business and you've got a few $100,000 of uninsured deposits, then you're going to put them in a big bank because you know that there's this implied guarantee of an unlimited deposit insurance. That's obviously not something that your bank benefits from. Could you speak maybe just to the importance of the three-tiered banking system? Why is this important? Why is it important to have banks of all sizes in the system that we have? Obviously, you see that up close and personal in Ohio.
Yeah, the three-tiered system is critical. So it allows us to reach into and provide better service tailored by bank size and bank type to the needs of individual consumers or businesses of different sizes. For instance, we couldn't handle a $100 million credit facility, but regionals working together could. And that's important. And success stories are when small businesses become bigger and we're able then to move them along in our banking system to those that can handle their needs. So that is critical. More importantly, though, having a tiered system allows more responsive community action. So we have a bank in Parkersburg, West Virginia, one of our 5 banks. It's small, but it provides a critical role in supporting people locally there and watching the traffic up and down West Virginia 2 or Ohio 7 along the Ohio River. We see these banks able to respond to the immediate local needs of that community. And then in the same way, 200 miles downriver in Cincinnati, we have a mutual bank that's decided because of how it serves, who it serves, and who it represents to become a minority depository institution and able to reflect the values of that community.
So Mr. Frazier, could I just one final question here, because I know I'm short on time, and I apologize for the interruption, but we just introduced today a piece of legislation, the Payroll Account Guarantee Act, and the basic idea is that we want to increase deposit insurance for non-interest-bearing business transaction accounts. The idea is that if you have a few $1 million that comes in at the end of the day in accounts receivable and your bank collapses, you're not penalized for this. You're not, in other words, we're not penalizing businesses for using a bank as a bank. This is much different, of course, from the Silicon Valley bank accounts, many of whom put hundreds of millions of dollars of uninsured deposits for a very long time. I'm curious, would extending the transaction account guarantee program, which existed for some time but has expired, would that help your bank and would that help the banking system in Ohio?
Yeah, I think in theory that the concept of expanding deposit insurance or targeting as different proposals have suggested is something worth considering, and it has merit, as do some of the other approaches there as well. And I think it's a good start, and it's a good place to begin the deeper dive into it. I'd also think about when we go about any proposal, the items that the other witnesses have talked about are important, and also to the 9 different factors that have emerged that are different that should be considered that are in my written testimony. I would think that would be a helpful tool to and lens in which to evaluate those proposals.
Of course. Mr. Frazier, thanks for being here. Thanks for everybody else.
Senator Smith of Minnesota is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all of you for being